Hello, this is Benjamin Hossack. I'm one of the founders of Foregenix, and today I'm going to take you through our March 2020 Global Website Security Update. Now, the aim of these updates is to provide the industry with the latest intelligence on threats that we're seeing in the e-commerce sector. In the interest of keeping things tight, we only have a few slides, and this update will be less than 10 minutes. For those who don't know who we are, Foregenix is a cybersecurity business with a very strong focus on the payment industry. Our team is global, and we support a diverse global client base. Now, before we get into the update, I want to draw your attention to the Visa announcement made last month on Magento 1. Support for Magento 1 ends in June 2020, and this could present the industry with a significant level of risk that is perhaps less well quantified or understood. I'll dig into this in the next few slides for you. So what is WebScan? WebScan is a technology that we've developed off the back of many years of forensic work, helping considerable numbers of hacked e-commerce websites to secure their online businesses and to get back on their feet after a breach. Basically, every single new bit of malware that we detect, every new what we call indicator of compromise that we find has been put into our scanner so we can detect it at scale around the world. Now, the key thing to know at this point is that our scanner is no more intrusive than a regular visitor visiting the website. All we're doing is searching for those very specific bits of information to understand if the site is healthy or sick, if the site's already been hacked, what platform it's on, whether it's been set up correctly, whether it's got all its patches in place, or whether it's missing critical security patches. And then what we do is we take all of that information together. We give the site a risk score and a risk category. Now, there are a number of different risk categories, but for the purposes of this update, the most important to focus on are high and critical. We see these two categories as the problem zone in the industry. High risk means that there are serious security issues with the website. Perhaps it's missing critical security patches, or it's been set up with all the default settings in place, like the admin page being easy to find and so on. High risk websites don't appear to be hacked at this point, but with the focus of a reasonably skilled criminal, they could be broken into within 30 minutes on average. Critical risk means that the site is hacked right now. It's losing payment card data at this very moment, transaction by transaction. Now, if you have an e-commerce portfolio, these are the two categories that we believe present the highest risk to you, and understanding who in your portfolio fits into those categories will help you to streamline your resources, your time and money to focus on mitigating your highest risk clients. Those are the merchants who are currently hacked and racking up liabilities, and the merchants or websites that could very easily be next in line to get hacked. Right, let's get into some of the results. Our recent scan completed towards the end of February was on a data set of just over 6 million websites. And you can see what the distribution is across the various technology platforms. WordPress, for example, is considerably more popular than any of the other platforms. But the one that I want to draw your attention to is Magento 1. With 202,000 Magento 1 websites, Magento 1 makes up around about 2.1% of the dataset. Now remember this because it becomes very relevant in a couple of slides' time. Now, looking at the dataset from a slightly different perspective, we can see the size of the problem in the industry. This is made up from the high and the critical risk websites. At roughly 10% of the dataset, the high and critical risk websites are the issue that we need to grapple with today. And interestingly, this percentage seems to be fairly consistent with scans that we've been performing over time. Roughly 10% of a portfolio is likely to fit into the high and critical risk categories. Let's take a dive into the critical risk websites. There are currently 2,559 critical websites in our dataset. Remember that these sites are hacked and their customers' data is being stolen from them right now, transaction by transaction. Their liabilities are growing right now, transaction by transaction. Now, drilling into the detail of the critical websites, we can see the actual numbers of each platform that have been hacked. And right now, Magento 1 websites are a hot target for criminals. The interesting fact here is that, as I said on the slide before, they make up 2.1% of our website database. But they make up nearly 74% of the hacked websites. I'm not sure any of us need any further evidence to understand that this version of the platform is being targeted by criminals. Now, the reason why these websites are being targeted is not because of faults within the platform. It's not Magento's fault. It's because the websites that are using these platforms are not being maintained. They're not being kept up to date, and as a result, they are easy to hack. Now, another interesting find is the type of malware that's being used to steal this data. As you can see in the bar chart, skimmers make up the vast majority of the malware that we're seeing. Now, this is a catch-all for things like MageCart and the many other derivatives of malicious JavaScript code that we're seeing out there in the wild. Loaders could also be added to the skimmer family since they're simply loading skimming code from another malicious domain or hacked website. So when you add skimmers and loaders together and consider them related, we're talking about 90% plus of the malware we're detecting being skimmer code. And these skimmers aren't new. They're not a brand new attack vector. In fact, they've been around for quite some time. But what we're seeing is they are being used very widely and to very great effect around the world to steal payment card data. I mentioned earlier that websites in the high-risk category are generally really straightforward to hack. It would take on average half an hour for a reasonably skilled attacker to break into them. Well, the reason why I wanted to show you these numbers is because we have 191,900 Magento 1 websites in this category. I'm drawing your attention to this because, as I mentioned earlier, Magento 1 will be end-of-lifed in June 2020. That's only a couple of months away. This means that there will be no more security patches, no more security updates provided for that platform. So just looking at the number of websites that are on Magento 1 and are currently high risk, I am really concerned that we as an industry are about to see a serious number of breaches over the coming months. Now, Magento, the platform, is not the problem. In fact, if you're running a reasonably successful online business, you'd have probably started with a platform like Wix or Shopify. And as you've grown, you've needed more functionality, more power, more capability to support the growth. Well, the leading platform to support this growth space in the last few years has been Magento. Now, Magento is a fantastic platform, but it also needs to be set up correctly and then kept up to date. It requires a bit more effort than Wix and Shopify, but that's part of the trade-off that you get when you want greater power and functionality. And this is where the problem lies. These Magento 1 websites are simply not being set up and maintained properly, so they become easy targets. Unfortunately, most of the hacked organizations we help have failed at that basic maintenance requirement, and a few other really important areas too. I'm not going to dig into these today. In fact, if you want to find out more, our blog has been documenting the findings over the last couple of years with really simple, straightforward advice on how to secure those sites. Really what I wanted to show you today is that there's an urgent challenge that we need to deal with in the industry. Magento 1 websites are being targeted by criminals. There is no doubt about it. So how do we help the industry? We believe that education is step number one. And then, considering the timeframes and knowing some of the challenges involved in upgrading a Magento 1 website to Magento 2, which incidentally is a lot easier than changing platforms as we understand, we'd say that these sites need to insure themselves firstly. They need to take out insurance. They need to take out insurance to help mitigate the risk of being compromised. And secondly, they need to secure their websites. What we're finding out there is that very, very few websites have any proactive security to protect them from these criminals trying to break in. Now, if you need help with insurance, please get in touch. We're very happy to direct you to a couple of insurance brokers that we know deal with this sort of cyber risk. And if you're looking for website security solutions, we can also help with our Foregenix web solution. We'll be putting out these updates on a regular basis. If you're not yet a follower of our blog or newsletter, please sign up and we'll let you know when the next update is out. And if you found the update useful, please share it and let's get the word out there into the industry. With a few simple changes to their websites, most of these sites within the high-risk category could massively improve their risk exposure. Thank you for listening.